Hi, good afternoon all. Many thanks for taking the time to join us today. As Beth said, my name is Blake Henderson and I'm the account executive here who predominantly looks after all of our UK-based customers. My plan this afternoon is to give you a brief introduction to the OpenAthens service, and then I'll start demonstrating what the service looks like from an end user's perspective, and then I'll be guiding you through the administration area to show you the tools available. At present, OpenAthens enables access to over 4,000 organizations, equating to a total of between 4 and 5 million end users worldwide. These include academic institutions, medical healthcare providers, and many other organizations that need to conduct research effectively. We're based in Bristol within the UK, but our global reach is forever expanding, with accesses being made from every country in the world, including the unlikely few. So the OpenAthens service removes barriers to knowledge, and what we mean by barriers is all of the login screens that your students are presented with, or patrons, when trying to access the resources you provide them. We do this by enabling federated single sign-on access. Users should have, and many expect to, only have one username and password without being prompted to log in repeatedly when navigating from resource to resource. Your users want to receive the same experience they get in the consumer market while conducting research. It can also be very problematic and time-consuming for librarians to issue usernames and passwords to every researcher for every publisher site. So here are the top 5 reasons for using OpenAthens. It's designed for librarians by librarians. It's fully hosted, so you always get the latest, most up-to-date version every time you log in. The service works across all devices and locations, so your users should be able to use their own device wherever they are. It's not IP dependent. You only need an internet connection and an OpenAthens account. It collects detailed usage statistics. So we very recently developed and released a new reporting tool, something I'll explain a little bit more about shortly. It supports user personalization where available on the publisher sites. Again, you'll see examples of this in a moment. And although it's not written on this slide, it's worth mentioning that the service comes with free expert technical support. So why is OpenAthens being adopted so heavily all around the globe? Patron requirements are changing, and by this I mean mobile access is expected at all times, wherever the user is. The users expect personalization to be available so they can save searches and add journals to their favorites folder. Multiple devices are used, and sometimes simultaneously. Users want to be able to access multiple resources without being prompted to log in repeatedly. And security standards are changing. Publishers roll out changes that can affect the way in which links or stanzas need to be constructed. We, as well as many publishers, prefer organizations to access their content via a federation as opposed to using IP authentication, as it's insecure and quite easy to spoof. SAML, which is the language that OpenAthens and service providers use to interoperate, is a simple to set up yet very secure way of enabling single sign-on. And now more is expected of the librarians. They have to integrate multiple tech services and monitor the e-library engagement for cost analysis and student or patron review purposes. This is something that our comprehensive reporting tool will be able to assist with. For those that haven't heard already, OpenAthens joined the RA21 initiative, which aims to improve the user experience by looking at some of the products and services available in the identity and discovery space and determining best practices for future implementations. The work is brought to you by the International Association of Science, Technical and Medical Publishers and the National Information Standards Organization, or NISO. For further information, please see the RA21 website. So this slide here contains a link that will take you to an OpenAthens verse IP proxy recognition guide. To explain the difference simply, OpenAthens is a SAML-based authentication provider, whereas IP or proxy is a legacy method of authentication. And yeah, if you go to that website, there's like a whole range of the difference in services. So what is an access federation? Essentially, it's a trust network built on standards. On the left here, we have the publishers or service providers. And on the right, we have some different examples of libraries, such as schools, colleges, or public libraries. If something went wrong with one of these publishers' SAML connections, it would take a while to identify and resolve the issue. Within the federated model, this wouldn't apply. We would work with the publishers to resolve the issue, thereby saving many librarians and publishers alike lots of time. So we sort of act as the man in the middle to bring everybody closer together. Now, before I jump into the demo, I thought you might be interested in being presented with this slide here. Christina, who is the OpenAthens technical lead, she's written a book and had it published, and it's titled The Access to Online Resources, A Guide for the Modern Librarian. It's a very interesting read, and it details the challenges that librarians face and the technologies used to address these issues. It's not tech heavy, so please feel free to download a copy using the link displayed at the bottom. So let's see OpenAthens. So what I'm going to show you now is how the service looks from an end user's perspective. In most, but not all cases, depending on how you've set up the service, the student won't even know it's OpenAthens they're using, so they wouldn't be presented with our branded login boxes. When this page loads, I'll demonstrate. So here we have the Clinical Knowledge Network's website. They are a medical healthcare provider based in Queensland, Australia, and they provide access to information to all healthcare providers in Queensland, and they very kindly allowed us to demonstrate their user experience. So that login box that you just saw there, it's embedded, it's an OpenAthens login box embedded on their website. The Clinical Knowledge Network members do not even know they're logging into OpenAthens, but from within, they'll be able to access all of their content without being prompted to log in again. So this text box here at the top, this is an EBSCO discovery service. So I use it to search for something, typically a healthcare provider would search for. And it will redirect me to the text articles available to them through their EBSCO subscription. So in the background there, EBSCO and OpenAthens exchanged information to determine whether the user is from CKN and that they should be granted access. And once successful, in this case we are, they're presented with the full range of text articles available to them. So, click on it and I certainly will be authenticated successfully. And as you can see, I can see the full text article. So I'll come back out of this. On the right hand side here, they've got some of their favorites. So, I'll just open a range of these. Let them all load in the background. And as you can see, so I've clicked on another different websites or different publisher sites link. I've successfully authenticated, and it's carried through that personalization. So I don't actually make use of this, but say, for example, I did, I'd be able to save searches, save journals, and come back to them at a later date. That one's not worked. But yeah, as you can see, I've successfully authenticated. I can, I don't have to log in. And I'll keep showing you the rest. So again, I've successfully logged in. Queensland Health Clinical Knowledge Network, for MIMS Online, toxins, again, Queensland Health Department, I've successfully authenticated. Embase, again, I've successfully authenticated. And that's just how easy it is to navigate from resource to resource. Now, say for example, your user or student patron, they decide to go via Google and they go to the Google website and they'll type in Science Direct. If I click sign in and then go to OpenAthens, once I click that, in the background, Science Direct will pick up the session or the token that's already, it's already been created once I logged into the CKN website, that OpenAthens box, and they've picked up that I should, be granted access. So whether they go via their, the website or the route that you provide them, or via Google, they should successfully authenticate. Now, there's not really much more I can show you with regards to an end user's journey, because it works. You're able to navigate from resource to resource. So I shall go on to now show you the administration area, show you what that looks like, and I'm sure some of you may grow to be familiar with it in the future. So what you can see here is the OpenAthens administration area login box. I'll start by showing you our demonstration area, and then I will show you the live environment, the customers environment. It's the clinical knowledge networks as well. They allowed us to demonstrate that too. So I guess to start off with, I'll show you how you would go about creating accounts. On the first tab here, we've got accounts. So I'll start again. This is the dashboard. From within here, you've got accounts, resources, statistics, preferences, and you've got all of these, these quick, easy to navigate through buttons. There's another button there for the reporting tool. All of your account information will be in there, and your hierarchy, the way in which you've got your organization set up, will be in here. We've also got a logger query box, which is where you would raise tickets from and contact the support desk, but then you can also contact them via phone or via email also. So yeah, I'll start by just quickly introducing how you would go about creating an account. So on the drop down here, you've got add, and we create a personal account. And then you would simply just insert some information about the user, select an expiration date, and you can specify a password now to send them, or email them an activation code to their email address. Sorry, something keeps getting in the way. Now, rather than adding them one by one, you can go here and click bulk upload, and you can submit a CSV file or a text file. And this is handy for when you need to provision manually lots of accounts that aren't in your local directory. Now, adding accounts as and when required can be quite laborious, which is why we've made it possible to establish connections to local directories. And this allows your users to use existing credentials or login screens that they're already familiar with. Say, for example, your institutional login page. So the connections field can be found underneath management, just here. And so establishing connections, it's fairly straightforward, and it's done here within the connections section. Our technical team, they'd work with someone from your IT department to map and configure the connections. And it really doesn't take much time at all. It's just a simple phone call and exchange of metadata. There are several types of connections that you can establish, the most popular of which is Microsoft's ADFS and Azure services, but we can also connect to others such as CAS or LDAP, Google, and many other SAML-based identity providers. So if it's not any of those that is listed here, then let us know, and we'll determine whether it's compatible. But most likely it is. Anything that's SAML 1 or 1.1 or 2.0 based, we can establish a connection to. So the details for the connections can be found within the connections. So these are all of the authentication connections that we've got created here for demo purposes. But I'll show you an ADFS connection again because it's the most popular. Within here, it displays important information such as your entity ID, scope, SALT value, and your unique user attribute. The unique user attribute is vital. It's the one piece of information that we most definitely need. And this is what you would use to differentiate user from user and provide that personalized experience that you saw before when I was navigating from resource to resource. So when establishing the connection, it's important to decide what attributes you wish to send from your directory. Name, email address, and course or department are the most frequently sent, but you're able to report on any attribute you release. So it's always worth considering when establishing that connection. So once you create the connection, you would start defining attribute release policies. And this is where you would map attribute to claim within your directory. And then you can add many rules here. So, you'd have target name. So say, for example, you wanted to provide access to just alumni, you would map the attribute, alumni to alumni from within OpenAthens to your directory, and then they would only be able to access a certain set of resources that you allocate to a permission set. So you can really, you can be really granular with these rules to grant or even restrict access. And this is just to help you comply with your content licensing agreements. Unless, of course, you will be providing everything to everyone, then this doesn't apply to you. So I'll go back to the accounts list just to show you how they're displayed. You can see here that these are all of the personal accounts that have been created. These are the manually created or the bulk uploaded accounts. And if you click on an account name, you can see all of the information that's associated with that user. So if I come back out of this, back to the list, it also displays the access accounts. Now, access accounts are for so they're unlike personal accounts. These accounts can be shared, but they're location dependent. So say, for example, you've got a public library, they'd make use of these so that that one machine or that one computer can have an OpenAthens account that walk-in users can use. So it's just a way for you to be able to share your resources further. And then from beneath here, this is where all of your local directory connection accounts would be created. And it's entirely possible to search within here for any of the account names, and it would search within all of the tabs for that individual user. So I'll now show you the resource catalog, which can be found underneath the resources tab. As you can see here, there's a wide range of resources that you can allocate already. So we've got just under 1,500 already available to be allocated, and that's a mixture of federated resource and proxied resources. And to allocate them, all you'd need to do, say for example, should you have a subscription, is underneath here where it's just these ones are already allocated. I'll find one that's not been allocated already, click allocate, and then you can choose which selection of staff or students you want to allocate those resources to. Just come back out of this. Within this tab is all of the resources you have allocated. So these are the 252 from this all tab that you have allocated and decided, these are the resources we have. We're going to allocate them to these sets of users. Underneath the logo, it will tell you whether the resource is redirect compatible, federated, or a proxied resource. And while we prefer and encourage both libraries and publishers to use the federated model, we do provide proxied access for when federated access is not available. And within the custom tab is all of the resources that you have set up via a one-to-one SAML connection, or say, for example, you just want a student to land on a particular page and you want it to be displayed on your library catalog. Then you can just, so you can have BBC here. You might not need to authenticate, but it's a site that you want to start directing your users towards. So I'll now leave this area and show you a live area. I'm just going to pause sharing my screen for a second. There we go. So again, this is the Clinical Knowledge Networks administration area. Many people choose to set up their OpenAthens service in different ways, depending on the size and scale of their organization, or how they want, or what they want to use the service for. Again, everybody's got different requirements. But the Clinical Knowledge Network use our organization tree, and it's kind of like a hierarchy. So there is a top level administrator, which is the one at the very top. And then there's lots of sub administrators. And the reason for this could be so that they can report and provide statistics depending on the different organizations, or one of the organizations could be a specialist organization, and they could subscribe to their own set of resources that they want to provide to their users. This structure could also be used should you want to connect different directory services at the varying locations. And it's just a really, really easy way for them to be able to, share the administration responsibilities across their multiple sites. So I hope I explained that clearly enough. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that there are multiple ways to use the service depending on your requirements. So moving on, I shall show you the statistics and reporting tool, and I will show you the statistics for one of these sub-organizations, and then I'll show you what it's like as a whole. So going here, statistics, and then reporting. Here we go. So this is the reporting dashboard. On the front page, we have some interactive widgets that display the top resources used, the total authentications made, and the total number of active and expired accounts. You can also change the time scale from 7 days to 24 hours or 30 days, just to give you, a different view. There's also a nice interactive heat map at the bottom, and this will display where in the world your users are actively conducting research effectively. So, if your users are only in the UK, you're only going to see a blue light here, but sometimes, you might have great global coverage. So I shall click through top resources here. Again, they're all clickable, and it will take you to the relevant page, the top resources used. And this is broken down, as you can see here, for that particular sub-organization, and the granularity is daily, broken down by resource. And I can deselect or select as many or as few as I want. And now you might be thinking, what's the difference between the dotted and the block line? So this line here, let's go here. On the 5th of April, what this is saying is there were 7 individual users that accessed the Australian Medicines Handbook. Now that was accessed by 7 people, but 16 times. On this date it was 27 people, but 48 times. So this gives you a real indication as to who your super users are. Even though, so sometimes there's been cases where a resource was used many thousands of times, but only by one person, or it just gives you that real cost per user or cost per usage analysis. So I'll come back out of this. Feedback. And I'll show you the top level statistics just so you get a feel of the scale. So if I do it by all organizations, I don't think right, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so you can break it down by however you want. Again, it comes back to that, what do you want to report by? And the Clinical Knowledge Network, they have opted to break down a lot of their resources, their statistics by job role. So you can see, it's the nurses and the midwives that are making the most accesses, and the registrars, closely following up behind. And it's entirely possible to provide individual user statistics. You can do it by class, job role, department, and this is for cost analysis purposes. You can really, say for example, you can cross-charge departments or different organizations depending on your needs and requirements. So I probably rushed it a little bit, but that's kind of everything. I've missed a couple of particularly the redirect. Yeah, that concludes today's demonstrations, and I'd like to thank you all for listening. But if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, Blake. Yeah, so we have had some questions come in, and we have got plenty of time. If you'd like to get your questions in now, obviously type those in as I mentioned in the control panel, and of course I'll read them out, and hopefully Blake can help us with them. So Blake, the first question is, what happens if one of our resources isn't shown in the resource catalogue?
Okay, so I'll log out of here. I'll stop sharing again. Well, I suppose I don't have to show you. We could just explain it. But yeah, it's really easy to to allocate a new resource. Say for example, it's not a federated resource that's available. We will approach the publisher and extend an invitation for them to join the federation. We would enable them, make them SAML compliant, and we would be able to provide that single sign-on experience should they wish to join. If not, we will go down the proxied route. But then again, if they don't want to do that, then you can just always create a custom SAML resource, and that way the link to that particular publisher site will be displayed on your library catalog.
Cool. Were you going to demo that, or are you ready to move on to the next question?
Yeah, no, move on to the next question. Sorry.
Cool. Okay, so we use more than one directory for our users. Are we limited to just use one directory connection?
No, not at all. You can have as many or as few connections as you want. Again, you can have sub-organizations and a directory within each, and then that just gives, say for example, those directories are in different locations, gives you the control to be able to, manage those. But yeah, you can have as many connections as you wish.
Cool. Thank you. So another question, how in-depth are the user statistics? Can database usage be identified down to the user level?
Yeah, definitely. Again, so I can show you that now actually. So yeah, we have something called a schema editor, and you can report by email address. So as long as you know the user's email address, it's done within here, preferences and schema editor. You select the custom attribute, which in this case would be email or username, and then you'd mark that attribute as reportable, and then you can go into statistics and yeah, really drill down into that individual user's statistics. And while this is only a year old, this tool, we're making it possible to be able to do year-on-year comparisons, so you'll be able to spot trends.
Great, thank you. And I think this might be a question that we follow up on, but I will risk it, and obviously let me know if so. But the question is, how would the OpenAthens interface, how would OpenAthens interface with an existing OCLC login setup? Is that something you feel like we need to go out and get more information and come back to?
Quite possibly. I think they're referring to their easy proxy usage. But yeah, the two work hand in hand. I mean, we can do absolutely everything that service does. So should you decide to adopt OpenAthens, you can completely eradicate that. But at the same time, yeah, they do work nicely together.
Great. And an easy proxy related question. We currently use easy proxy to authenticate our users when offsite. Can OpenAthens completely replace our easy proxy?
Yeah, most definitely. So again, that's what I was saying about, we are a federated service. We prefer the federated route. We're part of like a trust network, but we also have our own managed proxy built into the service. So for when federated access is not available, we can provide you with that, that IP authentication route that you're currently used to.
Cool, thank you. And this isn't a question, but we've got someone asking if you can just show the link with the ebook on, if you're able to show the slide again. We will, of course, link to this in the follow-up email, but obviously Blake can hopefully show this in the meantime. And yeah, in the email I send, I'll literally link to the ebook, and then obviously it's a free download, as Blake mentioned. It's got loads of really useful information, and yeah, definitely worth a read.
Most
So
definitely.
yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I was just agreeing with you.
So yeah, that's all the questions we've had. We thank you very much for attending our webinar, and we hope it's really been useful to you. We're always here, well, as in not 24 hours, but of course we're here to ask any questions you've got. Always. Blake's got his contact details here. There's lots of forms on the website, so sort of request a quote or book a demo. And of course, if you really feel that you want a one-to-one demo, we're more than happy to do that. If you want to explore a little bit more, we can provide that information. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and we hopefully hear from you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.